So early Saturday morning, folks, Keon Rayner, who's the deputy group head of sports with the RJ Argentina Group, reported that, and I quote, the track and field fraternity has been thrown into mourning following the sudden death of veteran track and field analyst, author and columnist Hubert Lawrence. And such a true statement it was. He joins us now with senior sports producer Brian Cuff, who is in cool Mandeville on Zoom, and to honor our friend and colleague. Morning, Brian. Morning, Keon. Welcome to you both.
Morning.
When you heard the news, what was the feeling?
I was shocked. Just went up to bed, and having made all the calls about 8 o'clock in the night just to make sure that everyone was okay, everyone was on, wasn't getting Hubert. I wanted to make sure he knows where his vehicle pass was. Spencer Darlington asked him to write up the letters for the vehicle passes, drop them at the lobby. Called Extal to say, if you get Hubert in the morning, tell him where it is, and then I went to bed. And then I got a call from Spencer to say, Keon, here, what happened? I said, what? He said, Hubert is dead. I said, huh? And then while I was on the phone with Spencer, Milton was calling. No, that's my boss, and I'm saying, don't tell me you're calling me about Hubert. So at that point, I ran downstairs. My wife said, what's wrong? And I say, Hubert is dead. Because in my mind, I had to get something online quickly, while now trying to get to everyone. So like heading to 1 o'clock now, and I'm like, this can't be real, because this man is a major part of all our track and field broadcasts. Yeah. So I was just shocked. And then my 8-year-old daughter started crying because she now saw the picture and said, but that's your friend. You always see him at the gas station and so on. So meaning of even now, never that we're talking about it.
Yeah, it still doesn't seem to have sunk into you.
Colleagues, fellow journalists were calling to say, Ken, I just see a poster, this is this so. And it is just unbelievable, because I spoke with him maybe Tuesday, sounded a bit nasal. I said, yeah, okay, you be. Said, yeah, man, just sinus is running, under some meds, resting up, I'll be good for Saturday. And so I left that conversation feeling like all was well. Like I generally do, never tell you what shift you're on, what's a change around time, who you're on with for these projects. And I was just shocked. Because I got, in the conversation with him, he didn't get an indication that anything was off. Yeah? And no one said that, Hubie didn't look himself. So it is quite shocking that we have lost such a person who, I think, transcended the sport of track and field with his commentary and analyst, because he did other sports. Played some table tennis as well. My first memory of Hubert was at JC. You always see him at the track meets taking notes. My first introduction to a bit of announcing was Hubert.
And he did commentary on a race that you ran.
Yes.
I wonder if this is it.
1996.
Jamaica College anchored when they won in Class 3 2 years ago here at the Gibson Relays, and JC miles clear of the field. This is good running. Ray eases up. Excelsior on the outside coming second. Looks like Monroe with Dwight Barrett running a strong anchor leg. Winning time for Jamaica College, 43.1, with Monroe and Excelsior closing fast for the minor places.
That's Keon there, by the way. Many years ago.
I remember sharing it with him maybe last year. Dennis was doing something about Gibson.
Brian
he
laughed.
laughed.
Sorry to jump in, but Brian Cuff is also here with us, as we said earlier, and Brian would have produced our broadcast with, of course, Hubert involved. Brian, give me some memories of you being a producer of this outstanding track and field man.
Nevs, firstly, let me offer condolences to his family and the rest of the colleagues and friends. I think a lot of us haven't really had the time to mourn or to process this as yet, because, as Keon would have said, that we had Gibson, and getting up that morning, and I set my alarm at 5 o'clock, and when I got up, I saw the messages, and just as I was going into the shower, my wife came, and she saw it at the same time, and the two of us just froze, because we just couldn't believe this news. You're supposed to be working with this person who first I heard about Hubie, and then I grew up listening to his voice, seeing him on TV, and then having the privilege, the honor of working with this man who was not only a commentator, but an analyst, but a broadcaster. He was so much all wrapped up in one. And he never, one thing that stood out to me was his humble pride. And I say pride and humility at the same time, because he was one of the humblest persons you would meet, but he was proud to know that he had this knowledge and he could share it with the world. And he did it in such an effortless way. One thing that stands out for me again is every time he comes to a production, he would be early, right? He would be very early sometimes. He would just be talking to everybody as if he didn't make you feel like you were better than or you were lesser than anybody. Everybody was treated the same way. He was a people person. He was a lover of sport and a lover of people. He genuinely cared, and he would ask questions about family. He would ask questions about life, and he would ensure that you know that, hey, I'm Hubie, the analyst, or Hubie, the commentator, but I'm also Hubie, the person, a former St. Jago man like myself, a lover of sports. And I'm still unable to really process, because even when Keon we had to be reworking the schedule of commentators and analysts for the day. That was when, for a moment, it hit me that, hey, we don't have Hubie. So, I mean, it's a huge loss for us. It's a huge loss for anybody people have been messaging me on Facebook, on Instagram, just people who've listened to him, who've watched him over the years, and they are talking about the loss that this man leaves.
And for you as not a young producer really anymore, Brian, because your experience is there to show, but for you to work with this man who has been in this industry for so long, a repository of knowledge, like coming out of his pores, how much did he sharpen your own game? What kind of impact did he have on your own career?
As you said, I'm a young veteran, so to speak. I've worked with Hubie since I think about 2010, and every time this man would open his mouth, one of the things we used to use him as one of the go-to persons for getting the trivia questions or the giveaway questions. He just reminded me that, there is never enough. And similar to you, Nev, you're always working at bettering your craft. You're always working at producing excellence. And that's one of the things, just watching him, just listening to him. Even when some people would take a backseat and relax a little, he was always going and trying to be better at what it is that he does. And that, for me, stands out. And I try to implement that in my life, in my career.
What about you, Kay?
We have had countless conversations, work-related, not work-related. And what always strikes me is that he's always preparing. Always preparing. You'll call him and he's watching the Olympics from 1996. He's watching interviews. And his knowledge wasn't limited to Jamaicans or Caribbean people. If a Russian was running, if a Kenyan was running, he could give you their history, their context, at the drop of a dime. If he's speaking about Natoya Gould, automatically he throws back to Keena Sinclair. If he's talking about Asafa Powell, he can remember his brother, Donovan Powell from Champs. He can reel off the stats from wherever. What school they went to, when they ran at Gibson, Champs, when they went to NCs. So he had this recall. That's why I labeled him the encyclopedia of track and field. And to lose someone like that, you can't recover. You simply can't recover. I see that picture, and that picture came from the Penn Relays magazine in 1994. I had a picture in that magazine, and I shared it with him a couple of years ago. And he said, "Where did you find this young man?" Because he didn't have a copy, it seemed. His last book, 50 Days of Fire, he called me to say, "Can I do a documentary?" And I want to come sit with me and talk about the book. I'm going to send you a forward copy. I had about 4 days to read it. And then we went and we sat and we spoke. And I watched that documentary yesterday for the first time.
Wow.
It was shot in 2022. And I was like, it was like a regular conversation we were having. And it looked scripted, but it wasn't. Mm-hmm. So it's those conversations that you have, the kind of research that you do, the preparation that you do. This man has written Champs 100. That's the history of Champs, Yeah? In 2010. And he's written another book before the last book. So you you just lose someone who, you know, is always super prepared, a friend to everyone. Everyone feels comfortable working with him, working around him. The people in the newsroom, when he comes to sit and wait for the show to start, as Brian says, always early. You know, it is just a huge loss. And the comments that you see online, Twitter, Facebook, former athletes, current athletes, just people who love the sport, you know, it's a huge loss to the nation.
Fortunately, we have to go because we have to go to news. So thanks, Brian. Say hi to the family for us and stay safe, son. Senior sports producer Brian Cough, and of course, Kieran Rayner, Deputy Group Head of Sports with the RGR Gleaner Group.
News in 5 is next. Thanks, Kieran.